Welcome, beloved ones, to Module 7 of Entheogenesis, our closing session for this beautiful course. And I want to thank you so much for sticking it out with us this long, for your devotion, your dedication, your willingness to enter these powerful states, this huge experiential zone of potential healing and awakening with this level of preparation, consciousness, and heart. It is so beautiful to me, and it's such an honor for Darcy and I to be one part of your holistic healing council. And as always, we pray that you take everything that we share, everything that's offered here, and that you bring it to the altar of your heart, and that you take what works for you, you take what resonates in your heart as true and beautiful, good and worthy, and leave anything else behind. The last thing we need is more dogma. What we really need is more empowered, sovereign, resourced, integral human beings offering one another compassion and presence as we together heal and awaken from the illusions of separation into the reality of our interdependence, our interconnection, and our divine sovereignty in human messy form. So with that, I would like to begin this practice, this module, with an opening prayer. And I love this prayer. This is a prayer from Richard Rudd that was first introduced to me through our beautiful friends, Cosmic Tea, who also happens to be part of the deepening practices for each week, his music, and his beautiful partner, Christelle Rose. And this is a prayer from Richard Rudd called Our Lady's Prayer. And our daughter, Kinty, and I say this prayer almost every night together. Here we go. So if you want to drop in, take a few breaths. Even if there's other things happening in your environment for this prayer, I invite you to stop everything else and really feel your heart, feel your center, come into your midline, and allow these words to resonate within you. Our Lady, who lives at the heart of all form, hallowed be thy name. May thy queendom come, may thy will be done, that heaven may come to earth. Please allow us this day to drink from your sacred silver spring, and forgive us our forgetting as we learn through your grace how to return all non-love to love. And take us by the hand and lead us step by step into the patient valley of your heart. For yours is the earth, our bodies, and our lives, forever and ever. Amen. Such a beautiful prayer. And he shares that this prayer, Our Lady's Prayer, is a prayer to guide us in to this next phase within the Great Turning, beyond the Great Turning, this prophesized time of the Golden Age of Miracles, what's known in the Andean cosmovision, that we're in the Pachacuti. That's a name for the Great Turning, which is the turning over, Pacha, world, Kuti, turning over, transformation, reversal. And through that time, we then move into the Taripai Pacha, which is the age of re-encounter, where we re-encounter, we remember our true selves again. And that's where many of us are playing in. Many of us are awakening to and remembering our true selves, our true essential nature, which is, in Darcy and I's definition, healing. That's true healing. And then from the Taripai-Pacha, we move into the Kori-Pacha, the golden age of miracles. And really, you know, all of our ceremonial work, all of our lives, Darcy and I, are completely devoted to this remembrance and this embodiment of the Taripai-Pacha and the Kori-Pacha in this life, in this time. For if we don't do our best to embody this, who will? So thank you for being in this great hoop with us. There's so many, millions of awakening souls, countless, truly, within our human family, all going through this deep awakening process. And the psychedelic medicines and the plant spirit medicines are offering a support and an escalation of that awakening process. So many times people have come to work with us, and I've heard this from other lineages and traditions as well, where they've come and been in a couple of ceremonies with us, and after that time said, you know, I covered more ground and had more lasting transformation in those last 2 ceremonies as I did in 20 years of therapy. And what I always respond back is like, well, the 20 years of therapy laid the groundwork for that. But nonetheless, there's a rapid escalation of true healing and liberation that's possible with the entheogens. However, as we have covered in this journey, in this course, it's not guaranteed. Learning how to create those conditions for healing consistently, cultivating the virtues within ourselves to be able to hold that frequency state for others is a process. And then learning the plant medicines is an incredible process. Just like becoming a really skilled counselor or psychologist takes not just being in university, but then usually 5 to 10 years of really intensive work on the ground. That's at least what it takes to become a skilled psychedelic therapist or plant spirit medicine ceremonialist. So there's nuance, but the most important thing truly is the sincerity and love in our hearts and our devotion to living from an integral place, from an ethical place, from a moral place. So in this concluding module, we're going to cover the art of integration and the future of entheogenesis. Now, the art of ceremonial integration is a couple book topic. And in fact, there's so many psychedelic integration coach programs that are springing up all over the place. And I really celebrate that this is happening. I'm so grateful that people are recognizing that there's a need, that after these very big peak experiences, how we weave the gifts into our life requires connection and support. Now, what I would love even more, and what Darcy and I are offering in this course, and what we realized was just honestly a gaping hole within the third wave of the psychedelic renaissance, is greater consciousness, awareness, practice for the preparation for an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of pain, or something like that. So within this last module together, I'm going to do my very best to condense Darcy and I's experiential, hard-won wisdom from our broad ceremonial work over the last 18 years into a very focused teaching on the most important things about the art of integration. Because honestly, it's not complicated. It's very simple. All that it requires is 100% dedication. So before we enter those teachings, I really want to share, and just do a recap of what we have been exploring in the previous modules together. So in module 1, we explored how true healing is awakening, and that there are very specific conditions that are necessary in order for true healing to arise within us. In module 2, we explored the essential and absolute necessity of sacred space that includes, and I honestly feel can only be sacred if it honors spiritual sovereignty, body autonomy, and informed consent. Module 3, we dived into the labyrinth of the past, the nature of memory, and how in order for true healing to occur, we must be trauma-informed. In Module 4, we called forth the power and beauty of our invincible innocence. It is critical to understand that our true essential nature can never be stolen, given, or taken. It can't be left behind. It's always here waiting for us. No matter how great the heartbreak or how horrible the experience, what we are truly is invincible. In Module 5, we addressed how absolutely necessary it is for mature shadow work to happen, especially by facilitators. And when there is immature shadow work, or in some cases, no shadow work practice at all, that the harm that can occur within psychedelic and plant spirit medicine spaces is profound. In Module 6, we explored the bliss realms and the mountaintop, and the role of spiritual and energetic initiation on the path of true healing and awakening. And now to close, the sacred container is one of the most important aspects of the earth honoring animistic traditions. And this is something that we see as sorely and desperately missing from almost all of the psychedelic therapy I've looked into, from a huge amount of the ceremonial work that's happening that outside of traditional indigenous communities. And this is the wisdom and the teaching of sacred reciprocity. Now, sacred reciprocity in the Andean cosmovision is known as Aini. And this is both a guiding ethos as well as what's seen to be the underlying creative force of the universe, is how the universe is formed. Now, sacred reciprocity in this understanding, as taught to us by both our elder Don Oscar Mira Casada, as well as one of our mentors, Puma Ketspe, as well as the beautiful Andean families that we've worked with over the years, that we've been bringing groups to visit and to learn from for the last 8 years, is that nothing goes one way. It's this understanding that the energy that we express circles back to us. And while Aini is an Andean word and is, philosophy coming from this beautiful culture and these beautiful lineages within the mountains and the highlands of Peru, that this is inherent in almost all the world religions, in almost every mystical tradition. I haven't found one that I've studied that doesn't have a core understanding of this. When we truly understand that what we sow is what we reap, that our energy, as we express it, does come back. That in itself is a deeply profound understanding. But where the Andeans take it to the next level is that it's through our gratitude, our love, our reverence, our deep, deep appreciation to Mother Earth, to Pachamama, to the forces of creation, that we participate in creating a world of harmony and beauty and justice for all. That we create that harmony from the inside out. And so when we're in a state of consciousness of love and reverence and devotion, and we're expressing that, which to me is, really what every ceremony is about. It's not about the self-improvement project, although that's captivating and it's a huge industry. I mean, it's a many billion-dollar industry. But true ceremony is not about the self-improvement project, as our friend Jen Davis would say. It's about love and loving and expressing this love and creating a space where this love can be the dominant vibration. And then through that, adding these components of how we operate within that love, these components of sacred space that we've been talking about. And then directing that love in the form of gratitude and appreciation and the witnessing and the expressing of beauty in all its many forms, directing that to the earth and the life around us. And what's amazing in that is there's this feedback loop that happens. It's almost like a flywheel of harmonic, coherent beauty energies. So the more that we express that, then the more that shapes and informs our lives. And this understanding, to me, that everything I do matters. Every thought I think, every word I speak, how I live, what I choose to do, what I choose not to do, it all matters. In that it actually affects the quantum field of light that creates matter, as well as then what I actually do or I don't do. And so the sacred reciprocity is something that we've been building in through our weeks of building these circles of sanctuary, your temple of sanctuary. We've been activating this sacred space layer upon layer. And have you noticed how that prayer of thanksgiving, of appreciation, of gratitude is woven in at every level? That we always begin with the gift of our appreciation for what we appreciates in our lives. And integration, is an interesting word because, if we look at what the word to heal means, which is to make whole, and integration, or to integrate, which also means to make whole, they're actually synonymous words. And so there's no true separation between the healing, the making wholing, if that's a word, in the ceremonial work, and then the process of integration, for we're always in the ceremony of life. However, there are some skillful means in that. And the greatest tool for integration and the greatest tool for success in the ceremonial work And the greatest tool to meet any challenge in our lives is recognizing that we always have a choice. We get to choose how we respond. And recognizing that we have the choice in every moment how we meet life, even though we are not in control of life. The sovereignty paradox again, that I have 100% responsibility for everything I choose, and I have the ability to respond to everything I experience, and I'm not in control. That's a paradox that just keeps rocking my world. However, when it comes to integration, and really just honestly having a successful human experience, the choice is one of gratitude. Now, I love that positive psychology has been catching on to this in the last couple of decades. And, some of the research from positive psychology says that if you write 10 things that you're grateful for every morning, and you do that for 3 months, your overall happiness level raises, your contentment with life, you're feeling good about your life raises, equal to if you had a doubling of your salary or a doubling of your monthly income, just by being grateful for 10 things every morning. Now that's pretty cool. What the Andean masters have known for hundreds and hundreds of years, that energy of gratitude is so powerful, and that we can choose how we wish to respond. Because life here throws us some curveballs, and it is difficult in some moments, almost impossible to find something to be grateful for. But it's always possible. And I share that from the depth of my own challenges, which in moments of life have been intense, through the death of loved ones, through intense illness, through the illness of my most dearly beloved ones. There's always, in every moment, something to be grateful for. And choosing that is a lifeline. It's a lifeline. And it's a choice. And as we recognize that this journey of true healing and awakening happens within ceremony, but it's also this continual integration process, that it's not about a destination, it's about a journey. It's a continuous journey of both being and becoming. Being in that capital B, our ever-abiding true essential nature, that radiance of consciousness, which was not born with this life and will not die with this life, that's forever present, that holds and encapsulates your life here and all of your lives and all the worlds of form simultaneously. And that level of being. And paradoxically, again, we are a continual becoming. There's this continual process of growth, of learning, of evolution, sometimes of devolution. That's that continual movement of becoming. And so in this journey of being and becoming, this integration becomes a choice we make every moment of every day. And only you can choose for you. And that's true for me as well. And the plants help us to lift out of dense conditions. They help to shift our whole outlook. They help us to get that metacognitive view, to be able to see ourselves, our minds, our lives, our responses in a whole new way. The sacred plant medicines help to cleanse and detoxify our internal organs so that we leave the ceremonies healthier, more vital, more resilient. They help to spark the innate universal intelligence of our inner healer and remove the density, the blocks, the stuck emotions, the old memories that impede the natural flow of our vital life energy. The plants are incredible helping hands. However, none of that means much if we don't choose to walk the gifts that they give. This is just so critical because in our culture of the dominant, let's say dominant empire culture, there's a very strong overarching vibe of entitlement. The need to be special. And in that, there's an inherent place of expecting to be given gifts. And then when we're giving gifts, sometimes just throwing them away. We're always on to the next shiny object. You know, there's a lack of appreciation. There's a lack of gratitude. And in that place, the gifts of the medicine are squandered. So how we heal, and if we heal, is 100% due to our state of holding personal responsibility and how open are we to this possibility? Are we open and willing to allow our paradigms, allow our mind, right, especially, to be willing to consider that we don't know everything and that it's possible that in this whole universe of being, that a whole new way of perceiving and experiencing life is available to us. And this just being open to not knowing everything, to not being too smart for our own good. And then when we're given a great gift, being like, no, I know better than that. I'm not going to take that one on. That doesn't fit within my box. You know, being open to the possibilities of not knowing allows for profound shifts to happen within us. Because the addiction to understanding, to always having to understand what's happening as it's happening, is one of the greatest blocks to true healing. Because true healing happens through our experience, not through our thinking. So the thinking part of us has to be able to rest back, has to be able to soften, we need to shift our brain state from that hyperdrive mind, which I have such an active mind. Working with this has been a huge part of my journey, continues to be a huge part of my journey. And holding that space of possibility then also creates an inner state of humility. Not virtue signaling humility of like beating ourselves up for being too fill in the blank or not enough fill in the blank. Not that. Humility in that I don't know. It could be possible. There's a line from the Tao Te Ching that was a prayer, a mantra. that I spoke to myself over and over and over in the years of my intense illness, when there was nothing I could do about what was happening in my body, but I could see that the source of my suffering was not my physical body. It was happening within my mind. I had that much awareness. And so I spent 4 continual years in a process of learning to train my mind, which in the traditional Buddhist sense would be through meditation. But I had too great of a storm happening within me to be able to sit on a zazen cushion and stay present. So I had all these friends at Naropa University who were going for like 3-week meditation retreats. I was like, oh no, that sounds horrible. But I was devoted and dove deep in to inquiry, to inquiring into the nature of my beliefs and my mind. And I'm so grateful for the work of Byron Katie. And Byron Katie is a huge teacher and ally for me, as well as those people within the work community who supported me. And I needed a lot of support because I was in the thick of it. I was dealing with something that not too many 18 to 23-year-olds are dealing with. I needed to wake up and grow up quicker. And these beautiful humans help me. But I digress. In the Tao Te Ching, there's this line that I held on to as a guiding light. And it goes like this. Not knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. The master has cured herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole. So being willing to not know and simultaneously not look out there for the truth is a very fertile ground for healing, a very fertile ground for awakening. And we really need to want it. There has to be nothing that's more important than the love of truth. And getting to that place where we're willing to give our healing journey and our lives 100%, well, it takes us all a little while. And it doesn't really matter how old we are. It's not a matter of chronological age. It's a matter of how intense the discomfort is, the cognitive dissonance is, the challenge. And for some of us, honestly, the vast majority of us and the people who come to work with Darcy and I, 95 to 98%, are called, the sacred call to the sacred plant medicines, to these ancient ways, to these experiential ways of truth, come through the wound, comes through the great challenges, comes through the heartbreak and the tragedy that's also part of life here. And that's also like irreconcilable on one level. These things happen. But it's not about controlling whether it happens. It's all about how we choose to respond. And that's where our power lives, in our personal choice and how we choose to respond. And then there's 5% of people who are like Darcy, who are just like so curious. It's just like the most driven and curious human being I've ever met. I love him so much, and I love his thirst for truth and how when he is willing to look in all these different areas It's one of the most open-minded researchers and scholars that I've ever met. And so whether you're in the 95% or the 5%, doesn't really matter because it's all up to this personal choice. Okay, you're doing awesome. Let's keep going. So why I have had such a profound and remarkable healing in my life with the gifts and the supportive allies of the sacred plant medicines, the lineages of earth honoring animism, and the culturally sanctioned ceremonial work is not because I am special, I am smarter, I'm more spiritual, I'm more, I have a greater will or more focus or anything like that. In fact, those are all things that I work with daily, that I'm still figuring out. And that, I have some pretty strong patterns of like, oh, that's just still not enough. It's like we're still working with the day-to-day human experience here. But why I have experienced such profound, remarkable, embodied, lasting healing, where my entire physical body has reformed from the genetics up, and I no longer have the same body that I did. And my health and my vitality and my resilience have been steady and strong and awesome for 18 years. And I've had to work at it. And I put that love and energy into myself so I can thrive and be a present mom, a present daughter, in service to our community, all those things. But the healing for me is not because of specialness or uniqueness, not at all. It's because I showed up. I showed up open and curious to whole new ways of being. I already knew that I didn't know everything. And that form of intelligence, that openness was critical, is critical. Because at the time, I had little to no identification with my personality structure being one way. In fact, the work of Byron Katie helped me to really hone and shift my identity structure to being very open. And, I didn't see myself as knowing that I'm a doctor, so I know this, or I'm a molecular geneticist, so I know this, or, fill in the blank. And I was willing. I showed up. In fact, a lot of the success with these sacred practices, and of course, moderate conscious work with the sacred plant medicines, psychedelic medicines, and these ways, is that I showed up and I was willing over and over and over. And finally, and I feel like the most important thing, honestly, is that I took nothing that was offered for granted. I received every gift and helping hand because I had struggled so much for such a formative part of my life. And like, honestly, 7 years of spiraling down, of having a undiagnosable, untreatable mystery illness that just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. That when a helping hand and a movement of health came in, when I could feel that shift, I honored it and I was so grateful. And so that's sometimes how our suffering and having, the hard knock school of being human can really be of service and help us, regardless of our age, to be spiritually mature stewards of our lives. So we're living in a fascinating time. The third wave of the psychedelic renaissance is happening within perhaps the most wildly dynamic, turbulent, volatile, uncertain time that any human has ever lived. There's a wonderful way of understanding this time that Darcy often talks about, but I'm going to share here. And this is the tale of two timelines. Within the tale of two timelines, we have the organic timeline and the synthetic timeline. And right now, both timelines are running simultaneously in parallel. But we get to choose which timeline we wish to live upon and within. So the synthetic timeline is motivated by a deep loneliness. This loneliness within shamanic wisdom traditions is seen as both a state of soul loss and of being cut off from spiritual connection. We see this as a form of illness when we can't connect with spirit. That's showing us that one aspect of the medicine wheel of our lives is out of balance. To not have spiritual connection is seen as a form of illness. This state of disconnection is actually the innocence that lives within us, our own innocence, believing itself to be alone in a universe that's devoid of caring. Within this view, there is nothing beyond the material universe. We're right now seeing the scientific materialist paradigm taken to the extreme. Within the transhumanist movement and the remarkable forms of AI that are coming out, especially this year and last year, through the bridging and the desire of people to bridge technology and biology, we are seeing the synthetic timeline become in real time a potential. And when this is taken to the extreme, we see these infinite ways to augment the body. It's a dismissal of the biological, of the natural. The body is then a sum total of its parts. The consciousness and body are separate. And there's the ethical and moral transgressions within this paradigm are so profound, they can only happen if we are completely disconnected from spirit, from the sacred, from our connection to one another and compassion. Within this synthetic, there's no longer women, men, but just who and how we construct ourselves to be. There's so many ways to become engrossed in artificial spaces and virtual reality that it can be difficult to remember that life is actually a biological process and not a mental process. And that the most inherent belief underlying the synthetic timeline is a motivating force to control life to avoid death. Because within this paradigm, all that is here, and nothing extends beyond the materialist experience. But what we know is that control is just a manifestation of fear. It's what we do when we fear fear, and we aim to not feel fear by trying to avoid it and control life, which never works out in the long run. Control breeds more fear, which breeds more control. And that becomes its own circuit of what Puma Ketspe calls hucha aini, the flow of density, extending out and returning. What we are here to be advocates, way showers, and cheerleaders of is that true healing and awakening is a natural, organic, and biological process. It's an organic path. which can be supported by consciously curated technologies that serve the larger intelligence, the universal intelligence within our bodies and our whole beings. But this is a timeline where our genius is directed to supporting the health and harmony of our bodies, our children, and the great web of life. Is learning from nature how to return to our natural beauty and harmony. And within this organic timeline, we understand that nature is the greatest resource for integration and stabilizing our energy body, especially after and within entheogenic experiences. This is an understanding that we are nature. It's impossible to be separate from what we are. It's just an illusion of separation that we could be separate from nature. And that nature is the greatest resource we have for integration, for healing within plant medicine, outside of plant medicine. Going and being in the forest is one of the greatest gifts for healing and integration we can give ourselves, or the beach, or the mountaintop, or any part of your natural environment. And awakening to the fact, the reality of nature, the natural, the cycles of life is our most profound teacher. All the ceremonial work is but a reflection of this connection. And this is really the foundation of eco-psychology and nature-based therapy. And Darcy and I feel very passionate that without this understanding, the third wave of the psychedelic renaissance will move in the synthetic timeline. And that does not serve the harmony, health, and thriving of life now or for the future generations. Which, why do anything now if it's not to bless all of the children? Why build any system of medicine if it's not thinking it for the long run? And so we see the future of all medicine, the future of entheogenesis, being a radical return to nature, to the natural, to learning and remembering how to live in harmony with our environment, wherever we find ourselves. And on a very personal and intimate level, it is choosing to either fully turn towards and embrace this body, this world, this life, or choose a path of greater and greater disconnection. Integration and healing and awakening is all about embodiment. What are we choosing to embody? When we meet the master teacher plants with reverence, gratitude, humility, and our own common sense wisdom, we are often given profound opportunities to shift deep patterns within. And as we do this, as we embody this sincerely, we keep showing up and being willing, we naturally enter the spiral of learning and the arc of healing, which is that at a certain point along our journey of healing, the next step is to be of service. The only next step that makes sense after you've found something so good and you've lived it and you've tested it and you've tried it out is not an idea. It's not a mental exercise or an intellectual experiment and pursuit. It's an embodied knowing. It's truth that is embodied. It's love that's embodied. Then the only thing that makes sense is to begin to share that. And when you get to this place, or if you're already there, may this course and everything you've learned then be paid forward to all those who you touch, who touch your life. May you pay respect and love and honor forward for these teachings by sharing them. And please know that you're fully empowered to share all these teachings. And it's wonderful to always honor the source of the wisdom traditions, the elders, our teachers, our guides, and where we find that beautiful wisdom. And so we create this medicine way in our daily messy lives through our moment-to-moment choice. And while the power of the plants and the divine sacraments is magnificent, it's only ever as magnificent as our expression of love. While the power of the ceremonial work is magnificent, it's wildly awesome. We go to these totally different places and experience the vastness of our consciousness, of our soul. Have these incredibly expansive experiences, the nature of being. But it only matters if we embody it, if we choose to be more loving, kind, compassionate, wise stewards of our lives, and that we tend our relationships with care. And the greatest practice for this, the number one practice that helps to support all of this on the day-to-day, in my experience and Darcy's experience, is having a garden. It's super simple. Some people are like, what? Having a garden? Like, yeah. Because the medicine garden analogy and metaphor, and then the actual practice within that journey and experience connects us, and we receive the direct wisdom for everything we need in our lives. When we approach each plant, the soil, the elements, the seeds as our teachers, then all of a sudden, how we relate to what has been given to us, to this life, can radically expand. But it's, again, all about how we approach the practice. So when in doubt, when you don't know anything else to do, when you feel lost, when you feel full of that master teacher doubt is in your life again, return to Gaia. Go out into the forest. Go someplace wild. There's no other humans around. Offer your gratitude. Maybe bring a gift for the spirits of the land. Something dear to you that's okay to leave in the natural environment. And you will return. You will always return to the beauty that lives within you and the beauty that is this life. And I stand here with 100% faith in the beauty that lives within your heart and the beauty that lives within the heart of every human. We've got this. We came here and chose to incarnate for this time. Entheogenesis as a process of awakening to the divinity that's always been within and within all of life is utter simplicity and beauty. Will always and forever be found within the wild places, and help us to reconnect a bit to that wild place within. So remember In the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, the next Buddha will be the Sangha. Choose your company well, and together may we stand for wisdom, love, compassion, and ethics within the third wave of the psychedelic renaissance, and be voices, lovers, guardians, and gardeners of this beautiful shining jewel of a planet. Our Sophia, Gaia, Pachamama, Tonantzin, Tierra Madre, Demeter, and all her many names. From the deepest love in my heart, thank you so much for joining us. Ayumasi Kanapa, we are all one family, all my relations.